For all things ATL. For everything Falcons.
First to the end zone, touchdown!
This is Peachtree Football. Now, your host, Dylan Matthews and Beau Morgan.
I think the most interesting position probably going to be that left guard position. We know who should be there, but will he be there right away? And, is anybody really going to be able to compete with him at that left guard spot? Obviously, I'm talking about Matthew Bergeron, but we'll get to him in a second. Is it pretty safe to say, other than left guard, everything else is pretty much nailed down? Maybe you can make an argument for center, but, left tackle, we know it's going to be Jake Matthews. Left guard, we're going to talk about that in just a second. Center probably should be Drew Dahlman. And then obviously right guard and right tackle, that's you just re-signed those guys, talking about Chris Lindstrom, arguably one of the best guards in the game right now, and Caleb McGarry, you just re-signed him to a nice 3-year deal. So I guess the first question I'm going to lead with, is center pretty much locked up to you as well? Is that Drew Dahlman's job to lose, or could we see a little fluctuation there at that center spot for the Falcons this year?
Well, I lost you for a minute right there, but I'll dive in on this center spot for the Falcons. And look, here's what it is. This is Drew Dahlman's job. He's got to cut down on some of the small mistakes. When he was actually blocking, he was good. He's an above-average run blocker, an above-average pass protector. And what he's got to cut down on, first of all, bad snaps, had a couple of them last year, had a number of penalties. I think he was up at like the 8 or 9 range as far as penalties goes. He has to cut that down. And if he does that, I think he'll become one of the premier players. He's shown the ability to play that center spot. I think the Falcons really like what his communication style brings up front. And so when you look at playing next to a Lindstrom and whoever it is that is playing left guard, his communication is going to be everything. That's kind of what the center is, man. It's less of a physical thing and more of making sure all the small things are right at the center spot. So for me, Drew Dahlman is going to be that guy. I know that there will be a lot of people, if Matt Hennessey is not able to kind of get that left guard job lined up, and it is Matthew Bergeron, that will wonder what Matthew Hennessey's kind of outcome at left guard means to the center spot. But for me, it is Drew Dahlman, and it's a guy that's earned that right. He's started a ton of games there. He started every game last year there, and he'll continue to kind of for the foreseeable future.
Real quick, before we get into the left guard spot of Matthew Bergeron, you talking about Drew Dahlman and really just centers overall having to do the little things, when you talk about being at that center spot and kind of being, one of pretty much the captain and kind of the voice maybe of that offensive line and the head of that offensive line. Is center the hardest position on the offensive line? Is it left tackle? What to you, which spot is harder? And you played a lot of those positions because, again, you were versatile. But which position is the hardest for you on the offensive line?
Man, that's such a hard thing to say. It's definitely probably left tackle.
Okay.
It's left tackle. If you're a good left tackle, I probably wouldn't say it. Like, I don't think Jake Matthews, he's quick. He's a dude that's always had quick feet. He's been incredible out left. He's played there, 8-9 years now. I can't even remember how long it's been. But for my money, it was all tackle spot, man, because you are essentially backpedaling, and I don't like to say backpedaling. It's a kick set, but you are essentially backpedaling, and you are waiting on one of the other team's best athletes to make a move on you. And they are trying to get to a spot, and maybe your quarterback's mobile, maybe he's not. But you always put yourself in that mindset. Let's just talk about a DeMarcus Ware, a Julius Peppers, a Von Miller. You're backpedaling, and you're going full speed ahead out of a 3-point stance in a sprint. You don't know spin move, you don't know repeat, you don't know if you're going to bull rush you. Be ready for all those. The guard position, and Matt Bergeron is finding this out right now, the guard position happens a lot faster. There's a lot less thinking. There's not as much move and counter move. It is snap my head up, punch my hands, get my hands in their chest. Now, you're dealing with a lot stronger guys, and obviously the run game for the guards is a lot different. But for my money, the tackle spot, man, that's why they get paid the big bucks. Well, aside from Chris Lindstrom, that's why they get paid the big bucks to play left tackle, man, because it's a tough job. And it's one of those where you're hardly ever right all the time. And so that's why Jake Matthews, being as good as he's been, has been able to hold that spot down for so long.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, good left tackle should be okay, but I could see a left tackle just coming in, or one that maybe ain't as fleet of foot, obviously really struggling because you're dealing with some, especially these days, dealing with some straight up dogs, some straight up athletes coming off that edge. All right, let's transition over to left guard because I think we all. And we've talked about this on the morning shift. We've talked about it in, just off the record conversations between you, Mike, and you, Beau, and I. Matthew Bergeron, we can write him right now in pencil in that starting left guard spot. Not pen, but pencil. He should be there. And right now, I think we're all kind of, again, penciling him in there. But do you see him maybe coming up against any struggles? Or is there going to be a guy that you think could really challenge him for that starting left guard spot? Because I think obviously the Falcons trading up for him in the draft, if you remember, I think they obviously want him to be that starting left guard. But do you see him maybe hitting any road bumps along the way trying to get that starting left guard spot for the Falcons this year?
Listen, I don't think there's no doubt he's going to have a road. He has the foot speed to be able to do this. He has the strength to be able to do this. He has the smarts to be able to do this. Doesn't mean he's going to seamlessly be able to do this. And listen, I think a lot of people have kind of overlooked what Matthew Hennessey has brought to this team. When he's been healthy, he's been a pretty quality player. I know that they had a little bit of a rotating door at left guard at times last year. I think they had 4 different starters at left guard. But Matthew Hennessey's a quality player in his own right. I want to say mid-70s as far as a draft pick goes. So not quite the height, but he's not a dude that walked in off the street and just, is overreaching. He's not an undrafted free agent that is just kind of, playing above his head. He's a good player in his own right. So Matthew Hennessey will I promise you, he's not going to make it easy on Matthew Bergeron. Now, Matthew Bergeron will be a guy that you're going to have to develop. I think a lot of people just pencil him in. That's not how it works, man. You By the way, Matthew Bergeron now has probably 5 weeks off before training camp. He's got to have the ability and the pro mindset that I'm still going to get my work in. I'm still going to eat right. I'm still going to do my drills. I'm still doing all that. You don't know what Matthew Bergeron is going to be when he shows up at the end of July. I mean, if he doesn't work and he goes back to Syracuse or goes back to Canada where he's from and he does not put that work in, then he'll be playing catch up throughout the entire training camp, throughout those preseason games, and probably into the season. Matthew Hennessey's been through that. He knows the mindset. He knows what it takes. He knows how to prepare himself. So I don't think it's cut and dry. I think if all things are even, that Bergeron's going to have the job. I think if it's even close to even, that we're going to have that job. But Matthew, just the fact that played, he's in the system, and he knows Jake Matthews. That's going to give him a leg up as well. So. Look, man, I was out there a few weeks back during OTAs. I saw Matthew Bergeron. I saw how big the dude is. He's a big dude. He's a lot big. I would say he's probably the second biggest in that top 8.
Wow.
Behind Caleb McGarrett. He's a big dude. Just height-wise. He kind of so he's going to have the athleticism, the strength, the ability to be able to do that. But just because you have all those things doesn't mean you're just going to be slotted in. It's going to be an uphill battle for him as well.
Yeah, and again, true. The other thing about this is, and you touched on it there as well, he's going to be a rookie. This is all new to him. So it not only is he dealing with, and we'll get into this in a second, him having to change positions because we all know he was left tackle most of his career over there at Syracuse. He did play some guard, and you were a guy who, again, moved around on the offensive line. So we'll ask you about that transition here in a sec. But on top of that, he's also going to be a rookie as well. So he's getting introduced to new things. This is his first training camp. He's going to have to get used to going through his first NFL training camp. I mean, there's just a multitude of things he's going to go through that he has not been through before. And those naturally are going to bring roadblocks. And it's going to be about how he responds to those things and responds to the adversity that he's going to face throughout the entirety of his rookie season. So it's going to be interesting to see. But look, you got me excited about him because obviously he's got the size. Sounds like he's got the talent, so I'm ready to see him.
I will say this, man, and you want to talk about the length and the difference between college training camps and professional training camps. When we used to get into college training camp, you'd probably be, let's call it August 5th. All right, you would look and you would have TVs in the locker room, And almost like one of your first days in training camp, you'd be watching the Hall of Fame game. Like at night, you'd be like, man, they're playing the Hall of Fame game. So those teams have been in training camp for a while. Everybody in the NFL has been in training camp for a while. You would break training camp after, let's call it 2.5 weeks in college. Right. At that point, and I had teammates from college that were a year older than me that were in training camps in the NFL. They're still locked in the dorm rooms, the hotels, the training camps after you've already broke. So they're in a week before you, and they're staying a week after you. They're getting a full month of training camp in a lot of different ways. Now, that has changed because of the 17-game schedule.
Right. But
I don't think a lot of people understand the difference and how much longer it is for an NFL training camp. At some point, you have classes in college. So after break training camp, you don't have that. The NFL is now your job. And by the way, you're getting paid handsomely to do that job. So you're at their mercy. And it could be a full-on month that you are living in a dorm room and hanging out with guys and just grinding, 6 a.m. all the way to 10 o'clock at night. It's a long deal that I don't think most people realize that there's such a big difference.
Yeah, it's like you said, at that point, it's your job. You're getting paid handsomely to do it. And there are certain expectations that you're just going to have to fulfill and new things that come with that as well. I want to ask you one more thing about Matthew Bergeron before we transition over to CBS's top 10 offensive interior offensive lineman list. But before we get to that, you were, again, a guy who was versatile, could do many things, and was good at many things, and is still good at many things. And you played tackle. Obviously, we talked about you played tight end, scored a touchdown. You played guard as well. Matthew Bergeron, we just touched on him moments ago. He's going to be a dude that is transitioning from playing majority left tackle to playing hopefully left guard and hopefully starting for left guard at guard for the Atlanta Falcons. How tough is the transition from that? The rule of thumb is that if you have played tackle and you've been pretty successful at tackle, then you should be able to slide in at guard. Now from guard to tackle, maybe not so much, but with him sliding in and not out, going from tackle to guard, should that be a pretty easy transition from him? And you've been out there, you talked about it, you've seen him at OTAs. Does he look like he's going to be okay making that transition?
Well, things are going to happen faster for him. I'll say this much. It's by no means easy. I think the transition from left tackle to left guard is a lot easier than the transition from right guard to left guard. And I don't think most people understand that. When you are going from the right side of the offensive line to the left side of the offensive line, it's like me telling you that you need to train for a boxing match with your right hand, and then all of a sudden you have to use your left when you go in the boxing match. It's just different. Yeah. So the fact that you're comfortable in a left-handed point stand, the fact that you're comfortable on the left side of the offensive line gives you a small leg up. Things are happening a lot faster. And honestly, you're asked to do a lot of things. You're going to post play a lot of games, which means that you're trying to get up under the lineman so that tackle can kind of blow and drive them off the ball. And the pass protection is going to happen a lot quicker. You have to get your hands up, have to snap out of your stance, have to get eyes up and ready, and you have to stay in good posture. So it's definitely not easy. Anybody who says it's easy, they must be lame. They must be Jake Matthews, Bruce. They play it all up and down the line, right? So it's not easy. But I will say, I think transition, as long as you're on the left side, is easier than going from the right side to the left side. So hopefully that plays in his favor.
We hope so. And hopefully, again, you can right now he's penciled into that starting left guard spot. But if we can at some point pin him into that starting left guard spot, and that's good. That means something's going right. And looks like it'll be a solid pick for the Atlanta Falcons. All right. Speaking of solid